All right, good evening, everybody. I'd like to call today's Tuesday, July 5th meeting to order at 8:05. Everybody who could, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. Madam City Clerk, I see a quorum, but do you concur?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Gardner is absent this evening, and Mayor Adams is on his way in, but we could go ahead. We do have a quorum.
Cool, thank you. Any members have any agenda additions, deletions, or amendments? Hearing none, we'll move on to citizen participation. Madam City Clerk, is there any?
No, Mayor Pro Tem, we only received one email comment, and it was forwarded to council this afternoon. Other than that, there is no one signed up for this evening.
All right. That means we can move on to city boards and committees. And I think we have two appointments here. So is,
We have a whole host of
am I incorrect with that? Ah,
Which ones? Yep, so we have two that are new, I think.
okay.
Okay.
All right.
So let's see, let me start off on community recreation. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to move that we approve Mia Owens as a youth member of the Community Recreation Committee and Christopher Rizzi as Economic Development Committee.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded. Any objections? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? All right, good to go.
You want to do the swearing in for this one?
Now let's just
Or you want to go
let's just
through all
roll them through.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, pardon me. I'd like to make a motion for committee reappointments for the following individuals. For Administrative Review Board for 2-year terms for Nancy Franklin, Carl Robinson, and William Schmidt.
It's been properly moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded. Any objections? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right.
All righty, Mr. You want, go ahead.
Either way. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to move to reappoint the following members to the Bowie Arts Committee for a 2-year term: Gabrielle Davidson, Jacqueline Thompson, and Joseph Wright.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any objections? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Are there any other motions?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint members of the Advisory Planning Board for another 2-year term. Lisa Frisson, James Galato, Terry Rogers, Carl Schutler, and Ronald Scotts.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any objections? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint the following members to the Board of Elections for another 2-year term: Don Phillips and Brian Sudduth.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any objections? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions?
I'll let you do number 6.
All right.
All right, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Lisa Henkel to the Board of Personal Appeals for another 2-year term.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any objections? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to move to reappoint the following members of the Community Outreach Committee for another 2-year term: Bonaventure Askin Lesotho, Mary Ellen Winderland, Adeyo Fashanu, and Joseph Wright.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any objections? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to make a motion to approve the following members to the Community Recreation Committee for a 2-year term: Mr. John Fagan, Tony Nichols, and Carrie Weaver Bridges.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any objections? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to reappoint the following members to the Diversity Committee for another 2-year term: Bonaventure Akinsotu, Elvita Dixon, Jessica Fusil, and Tisha Hillman.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any objections? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions?
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to reappoint the following members to the Economic Development Committee for another 2-year term: Billy Lewis, Yolanda Muckle, Arthur Rogers, and Phyllis Thompson.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any objections? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Any other?
Mayor Pro Tem, I'm sorry.
Sorry, before we go on, I want to yield back to the mayor since he's arrived at this
Oh,
point.
thank you. Okay, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I move the council reappoint the following members to the Education Committee for another 2-year term: Tracy Bradley, Frank Bryant, Sonia Huntley, LaDonna King, Nadja Kirby, Donna Nelson, and Lynette Oregio.
Properly second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same favor? Hearing none? Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint for a 2-year term to the Environmental Advisory Committee: Alexandra Harry Napier, Abigail Snyder, Karen Teschenberger, and John Teasdale.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor, please respond with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same favor. Hearing none, motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint the following, to reappoint William Olukoya to the Financial Advisory Committee for another 2-year term.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor, please respond with an aye.
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 Opposed, same favor. Hearing none, motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to reappoint to the Green Team Executive Committee for a 2-year term the following members: Michelle Balfe, Linda Cooper, Howard Dobson, Sue Rivera, Alana Whistler, and Joshua Wooten.
It's been moved and properly second. All in
I'm
favor?
so sorry, and Mason Gore Duran, who is on the next page. I apologize.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same favor. Hearing none, motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I move to reappoint the following members to the Information Technology Committee for another 2-year term: Richard Bleach, Joanne Marshall Hobbs, Kenneth Wenzel.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor, please respond with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same favor. Hearing none, motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I move to reappoint the following members of the Public Safety Committee for another 2-year term: Delmer Billings, Ronald Gill, William Grayson, Bill Healy, Jill Hockman, and Jacqueline Rome.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor, please respond with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same favor. Hearing none, motion carries.
That concludes.
Okay. I think that brings us on to the council announcements.
Mayor, we have the 2 new appointees that need to get sworn in.
I'm sorry, please. I am looking for the... Please come forward. Okay. Anybody got this? At this time, we'd like to appoint Christopher Rizzi as a member of the Economic Development Committee, as well as Mia Omans to the youth member of the Community Recreation Committee. We'd like to do the swearing in now. If you could please raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Christopher Rizzi,
I, Mia Owens,
Do swear or affirm
do swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
and I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
to the state of Maryland
to the state of Maryland
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully,
diligently and faithfully,
without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute the office of or regular member of, and state the committee you're going to be in. I think you were talking about the Economic Development Committee, and we were talking about a youth member of the
Community Recreations
Community Recreation.
Yes.
Did we get that? All right. According to the Constitution
according to the Constitution
and laws of this state.
And
and laws of the state.
Congratulations. Please come on, get your certificates. There you go. Thank you so very much, and thank you for serving the city. Christopher? There you go. There you go, man. Good seeing you again. Hey, congratulations, and thank you for serving the city. All right, and congratulations to everyone who've been reappointed to their positions on the boards as well. We will now move on to council announcements, and I would first like to say, as you may know, I'm just getting in a few minutes. I went down to see the damage and talk with some of our staff about the tornado that's hit in Bowie, and it's amazing. And I say this to the city manager and city staff, our police chief, public works, the entire team is down there. And they were down there extremely fast, and they're getting things done. And on behalf of the council and also the citizen, I want to say thank you to our emergency management team and all of our first responders. And I'd like to give y'all a round of applause. Along those lines, City Manager, thank you for keeping us updated and filling us in on what's going on. I would also like to just take a moment to say that so far there have been no real injuries or anything reported. There was some talk of the shopping center having structural damage, but that does not seem to be the case. And we have some shaken citizens. But again, I think the response of the city has been outstanding, so thank you on that. And last but not least for me, I'd like to say to our recreation and everyone else, the concert in the park for the 4th of July was really nice, and a belated happy 4th of July to everyone. Councilmember Harrison?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have one announcement, and it's a congratulatory announcement to our District 4 Councilmember, Roxy Ndabumadu, for her appointment by Governor Larry Hogan to the Maryland State Board of Affordable Housing. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other announcements at this time? All right, moving on, we will now go to the city manager's report.
Well, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much, council and residents. We're hard at work getting ready for this independent audit that's forthcoming, so everybody's gotten their correspondence from the auditors, and we're working hard on that. And with regard to the bad weather and the tornado, I'd like to say that the system that we have in place worked quite well. The initial calls came into our call center that the police department runs for us, both 911 and the non-emergency system. The police, who are our first responders, were on station, and I was talking to the chief, and he was out there in the middle of it. He notified our emergency manager, who got all of the tree cutters and other people involved, and so that within a matter of minutes, we were prepared to react to that emergency and others. And it's really nice when the system works out well. But it started with a call to the call center and the police reaction, and then here we are now in control as best as we can with the weather situation. Thank you.
City Manager, if I may just take one moment to add on to that. The citizens in that area are so appreciative of that quick response. I mean, from everyone, they're still shaken, they're upset, but everyone I talked to, they talked about how fast and how, I guess, safe they felt having you there. So again, thank you for that. All right, if we could now, I'd like to move on to the consent agenda. I'm open to a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please respond with an aye. Aye. Opposed, same favor. Hearing none, motion carries. We will now move on to old business. The adoption of ordinance 0322, amending the Bowie City Code. Turn it over to staff.
Yes, Chief? Give him back.
Good evening. As everyone's aware, we've been speaking about the legislation that was passed that allowed Prince George's County to operate speed cameras in residential areas with speed limits under 35 miles an hour. So we've been investigating that per council's wishes, and we've come before you tonight with the ordinance that would allow us to take the next step, which would be to enter into a testing and evaluation phase with a company called Ultimate. And our goal there is to place them in some data-driven locations as well as some complaint-driven locations, start to gather data. This would be on a strictly testing and evaluation period and process where we would be issuing nothing but warnings. If we are agreeable to the way the system works and we see that there's a benefit to the city, we would then put out a bid and proposals and go for the next step. But this would be to get our foot in the door to see if it's something that we want to do long term, and if the results and the data show that the process works and drives speed down.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, are these cameras mobile? Would these be mobile?
Yes, they will be mobile in nature, not pad-driven as such as the school ones are. And the goal would be to, again, respond to not only the speed studies that we are doing and that Public Works are doing, but also neighborhood complaints, so that kind of do a force multiplier, so we can put a camera out into an area, not only to gather more data, but to also make residents aware that they are speeding, issue those warnings during the testing evaluation phase, and tickets later if we continue to move forward with the process. So one of the things that we wanted to do, and one of the reasons that we're in the position we are, is that our current company was pad driven. We didn't like the data we were getting and the styles that we were getting. So we want to be able to move them around, again, with plenty of notice, plenty of notice to the residents, plenty of notice on our social media platforms, because we never want to run a gotcha program. Everything's going to be up front. Everything's going to be posted way ahead of time. And we want to just kind of drive the speed down. And hopefully, like I said, we don't issue any citations and drivers start to drop that speed down. But they will be, to your main question, they will be portable, movable, and we can adjust them on the fly to areas of concern, just, again, data-driven and complaint-driven.
Thank you. And how many cameras will be deployed initially, and what's the timeline for that?
We have been in conversations with the company. They're ready to get the signs out probably within the week. We're going to post signs at every entrance to the city saying that, much like Montgomery County does, saying that speed is enforced by camera. And then we'll start to look at our higher data-driven spots from there. We are looking to possibly be able to start getting cameras up by the end of the month. Possibly 2, maybe 3. Haven't quite figured that piece out yet.
Okay, I
Mr. Mayor?
think I'm good.
Yep. Mr. Mayor, thank you. Chief, first of all, thank you for your diligent efforts on this. I know that you've been working on this, being most helpful. I've been pushing this since before we had legislation. We got a legislation out of Annapolis that allowed this, and now the testing process is upon us, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing the results, and certainly appreciate your efforts and the part of the police force and the entire staff to make this come to fruition. So thank you. I do want to also point out that I would be the happiest amongst us all if there wasn't a single ticket issued, but everybody slowed down as a result of this. I mean, obviously the objective here is to slow things down. Traffic is perhaps the number one complaint that I get from my constituents, and I'm hopeful that this will help mitigate some of the problems that we have. So thank you for the good work on this. I'm very much appreciative of the endeavor.
Certainly, if historical data holds up, it's going to do exactly that. If you go back to when we initially started the speed cameras in the schools, our numbers were here, and they steadily have dropped since. So it does alter behavior, even if it's just in that one little area. It does start to change some behaviors, and that's what we're hoping for.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Questions from any Councilwoman Mdimadu?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hi, Chief. It's so good to see you. Thank you so much for your support and your work on this program. I'd love to understand a little bit more about the prioritization process that you'll be looking at when you talk about putting some of these cameras up.
Certainly, and good to see you as well. We would do a two-tier approach. There's data-driven, which is the speed studies that Public Works have done and we have done as well. And we look at where our highest ratio of speeders are, accidents, things of that nature. And then there's, of course, the resident-driven almost, because we do try to capture data when we get speed complaints, but we're capturing snapshots. So what we're happening to do, or looking to do, is with the speed cameras, we have a longer presence. It's a force multiplier. You know, we change the equation if we're out there sometimes, right? So they automatically slow down. This will be a more, not covert, but we're not affecting the environment as much. And that way, it'll become a habit, hopefully, for people to slow down without having to see us there. But it'll be both data-driven and resident complaint-driven.
And just a follow-up question on the data-driven part. How are we thinking about getting that data from areas that haven't had those assessments done in quite some time, but still have a number of complaints? I know you mentioned the complaints, but I'm just worried about the areas that probably haven't reached you in terms of the complaints that haven't had those assessments done in a while. So
Sure.
is there like a proactive approach to evaluate?
There is. Our traffic person looks at areas. One of the things that we put into this fiscal budget is more counters that are mounted on poles. So we'll be able to do more studies at once. I believe Public Works has the capability as well, and we will be coordinating with them to make sure that we're doing a fair coverage of the city. And I would encourage any residents that feel that they have an issue or to feel that they need some a revisiting to please contact myself or Public Works, and we'll be happy to start to gather data again.
Thank you. And then last question, is there any design difference from the speed cameras that you'll be using this go around versus the one that we've already used in the past?
Yes, the ones that I haven't seen the exact model that they're going to actually put out yet, but they'll be smaller, they'll be mobile versus the cans that we're used to seeing on the concrete slabs.
Right.
They'll be much sleeker, maybe not quite as visible, but again, we'll be making sure that we take great pains to inform the community that they're going to be out there.
Yeah, for sure. I'm more familiar with the ones that they typically put in, like, sort of kind of like the trees that you don't really see as much. So those are the ones I'm much familiar with, but it's good to know that you're looking at a different type of design and you'll be going out of your way to make sure the residents are aware that they're there. Thank you.
From day one, we do not run a gotcha program.
Yeah.
If you get a ticket, it's your own fault.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
It's probably a dumb question, Chief. Is there any application to use this technology to help us identify ATV riders?
Not a dumb question, but it is, it could possibly, it's, again, if they're speeding, they're going to trigger the camera. So it really depends on the angles that we're getting. When you start to look at people, some are wearing helmets, they're all wearing a lot of the face masks. You're going to have to really hope that you can identify clothing or some kind of identifiable feature on the bike that someone knows. But that's definitely not a dumb question at all. There are some possibilities there.
All right. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. I would just like to advocate for Bel Air Drive and Cambridge Drive as two locations that should be prioritized if possible, please. Thank you.
I think you're behind the councilman for Tulip Grove, so.
Okay. We had a resident at our last meeting complain about Cambridge and Bel Air Drive also, so.
And I know that Corporal Saunders has been out there as well, and I'll make a note to share those results with you.
Those are all great streets in a great neighborhood, and one of the finest districts you can find anywhere. Mr. Mayor.
Do we have any other questions by council members?
No.
Hearing none, I would.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Excuse me, hold on.
We
I'm
gotta
sorry.
wait. I'd like to
Public hearing,
declare
I'm
the
sorry.
public hearing open. Do we have any comments to be read?
No, Mayor, no comments for this evening.
We will now declare the public hearing closed. I will now entertain motions.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move for approval of ordinance 0-3-22.
It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please respond with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same favor. Hearing none, motion carries.
Thanks, Chief.
Good
Thanks,
stuff.
Chief.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
We will now move on to new business and the Melford revision to the detailed site plan number 07031-05.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council.
Minor?
I'm Joe Minor, the City Planning Director. This item A under your new business agenda is a revision to an existing detailed site plan at Melford 07031. This is the fifth revision to that plan that was approved in 2008. St. John Properties is the developer, and they're requesting your approval for a revision to substitute 59,640 square feet of research and development flex space in lieu of two office buildings, which were shown on that original 2008 plan. The Bowie Advisory Planning Board held a hearing last Tuesday. We did not have any public participation during that hearing, but in the end, the advisory board concluded and made a recommendation to support the revision to the detailed site plan as you see it before you. Also, the staff recommendation in this case is for approval. We feel that the site plan represents a reasonable alternative for satisfying the county's site design guidelines as well as the city's development review guidelines. And so staff recommends approval. And with that, I will conclude the staff presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move right on. Any questions for staff right at the moment? Hearing none, I think we'll turn it over for your presentation.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. For the record, my name is Robert Antonetti of the law firm of Shipley & Horn. It's a pleasure to be here before you tonight. I'd like to share my thoughts and prayers with the citizens of this fair city for the tornado that came through tonight, and it really is a testament to this municipality, to have such a strong organization to be able to deal with such natural disasters so smoothly and efficiently and to best serve the residents of the city. So hats off to you for that effort tonight. Tonight here before you, you do have, as Mr. Minor stated, I would like to thank Mr. Minor for his review leading up to tonight's hearing. This is dealing with Pod 6 within Melford. Melford has a history as an employment center within the county. These efforts, these revisions tonight will help solidify that and basically finish out what is known as Pod 6 within the project. Before you on the screen and before you with the 11 by 17 handouts, what you have here tonight, this is the original proposed layout for Pod 6. Pod 6 was approved in 2008 for a variety of flex R&D and office. What's shown in the middle here in this image is a 40,000 square foot existing building, which is the county's 911 call center. What is highlighted in red are basically changes from the original approval, which initially showed all flex R&D space in Pod 6. And I will say Pod 6 is the last area within Melford that will have any new flex R&D development within the project. The original approval for it proposed up to 379,240 square feet of commercial development, including up to 245,500 plus square feet of flex R&D space. Moving ahead, what's outlined in red here is the proposed layout tonight, including what the most recently approved revision to Pod 6, which is the Encompass Health Center, which this council heard, reviewed, and was ultimately approved by the county. So that is in its various stages of development, and look forward to having that come out of the ground at Pod 6 in the very near future. On the either side of the existing County 911 call center, you'll see two buildings. One is a proposed, to the, plan left, 36,120 square foot flex R&D building, and to the right of that is an additional flex R&D building, 23,520 square feet. These are buildings that would replace the previous proposed approved buildings that were in 2008, but because of market factors, and I have Mr. Roud here tonight who can explain some of those factors to you, why it's appropriate to move to this product, which is very successful for the Melford. It's actually quite attractive, one-story buildings, masonry buildings, with basically consistent with what you see out there today. I will add, here is some color elevations of what the buildings would look like. Flex R&D buildings have office in the front, and they are flexible. They have roll-up doors in the back, which are a great asset for a variety of users. This will be no different from other buildings that are proposed, or existing, in Pod 6 and in other pods within Melford. Here's some more elevations. There will also be some signage attached with this, including some directional signage and tenant monument signs located in front of each building. These are very consistent with the signage that's been approved in past development within Pod 6 and other places within Melford. And here is an image of a CGI image perspective of what the building would look like. Again, you can see the individual entrances here, which again allow for multiple users within these buildings, and again would meet the needs of the employment market within the Bowie area. So we're looking forward to bringing it forward, and rather having these spaces undeveloped, having them develop with something that will be well occupied and well used. And here's the back of what this could look like, will look like if built and approved. And you will see some screening walls here right in the forefront, which will help screen the views to the bays, which are is a technique that St. John Properties uses for other buildings within this aspect of this area of Melford. So with that, I'd like to call up Mr. Roud to talk a little bit about the market dynamics which are causing this change at this time, and then come back and answer any questions that you may have.
Good evening. Andrew Rabb with St. John Properties. Thanks for coming out tonight. I just wanted to let you guys know, as far as the change, everybody's been reading about the state of office in the economy, both on a macro level and down to what we're doing. Last week, I think it was, we were in front of the Bowie Advisory Planning Board, and Terry Rogers, who most of you know, is in commercial real estate. And so when I started to explain the problem, he just said, "Hey, stop, I got it." We've been, the the office buildings were programmed in 2008. That's 14 years ago. And it's just sort of repeating over and over again the lack of any activity that we can get there. The second four-story building, so when you're staring, if you're at the Circle and you're looking at 16701 and the one beside it, I can never remember that number, that building is 150,000 feet. 40,000 feet of that building has never even been let once. So there's 80,000 feet in that building vacant. 40,000 has never been programmed. The other 40 that's currently available is second-generation space. So, I mean, if you think about it, since '08, that building hasn't even been finished or let. So I think now's the time to make the change. We're finding that the flex is very desirable. I don't know how you attribute it to COVID, but I think one of the issues is that you drive into your office, you don't have a common area, so there's no elevator banks, there's no lobby. You go straight in the office, it's your own people, you maintain your own bubble. So we're finding that that is very, very successful. So all I can tell you is the two buildings added together, one's 39,000 feet, one's roughly 20,000 feet, for 59,000 square feet. That will generate or be home to about 178 jobs. So if we move forward on the proposal tonight, it is lettable, it will happen, and those buildings will house about 178 jobs for the municipality. It doesn't sound like a lot of money, but the tax revenue on those two buildings will be in addition to $202,000 towards the city of Bowie's tax rolls from property tax. So not much of an argument other that it's time for a change, and we've had great work with Joe and his staff. And I think the Bowie Advisory Planning Board saw the value in asking for this too. So with that, any questions?
Okay. Thank you very much. So with that, we would respectfully request your support for this amendment to the detailed site plan for Pod 6. And our team is here to answer any questions that you may have. But thank you for your consideration tonight.
All right, do any members have any questions? Councilmember Ndebumadu.
Thanks, yeah. Thanks, Mayor Pro Tem. Thanks for coming out. It's nice to see you all again. A couple of questions for you. You talked a little bit about the design change being geared towards meeting the needs of the employment market. I wanted to know if you could expand on that a little bit more.
I could call Mr. Roud up to speak mostly to the market dynamics. So,
hi, Andrew.
I mean, as I just explained, four-story Class A office space, there's a lot of it here. The one building that you see, what number is that, 16901, something like that? I mean, it's 150,000 square feet. When it was completed in '08, 40,000 of that feet has never been anything but just the shell space. So nobody's wanted to have it. Now there's an additional 40,000 feet that's what we call second-generation space that's available. So there's a big sign on it that says for lease, and still 80,000 feet of 150,000 square foot building not available. We don't know why that is the case. We do have an office out there and it is programmed, but for whatever reason, there's I don't want to say a glut, but it's not perfect. But what we have found portfolio-wide, and we're in 8-9 states now and just opened one in Texas, the flex space is highly desirable. It's a little more affordable because you don't have the load factor on the buildings. You can drive your car right up to the front. If you have an office of 10 people, all 10 of you are in your little bubble. I don't have to worry about a sick person going to see a doctor on the 3rd floor, going in elevator banks and public lobbies and all the rest of it. So that may be the reason why the market's changed, but the flex product is extremely desirable, where we're having everyone's having trouble with Class A office.
Awesome, thank you. My second question is around the, I may be misrepresenting here or misstating, but there is, let me just go to the appropriate page here that I'm referencing so you can know what I'm talking about. Okay, I think this is page 5. On page 5, you have images of like sectional doors with this design. I don't know what that design is called, typical rear elevation or something of that sort. So my question is really around this particular design, you talk about attracting science and technology type of occupants. How do you go about differentiating the type of occupants that you hope to attract from people that are looking for more like that warehouse feel? Because over the last couple of years, we've been very adamant that we don't want Bowie to turn into that type of industry, if you will, like that warehouse, industrial trucking type of industry, in terms of that being the type of occupants that we are marketing to. So how do you go about differentiating that and attracting occupants that are truly focused on technology or data storage or whatever the case may be, as opposed to more of that warehouse trucking type of industry?
Well, I mean, one of the, I'll give you an example, Semiconnect. They're a tenant that basically assembles, it's called light manufacturing, but they put together the charging stations that everyone's using for their electric vehicles. I wouldn't argue that's warehousing, but they do have to take the product that's shipped to them and then do the light assemblage in it and then ship it out. But when you look at one of those buildings, if you're taking a look at the front of it, many times it could be, I'm picking names, but a State Farm agent. So the back part isn't used for any trucking whatsoever. It can be reprogrammed or programmed for an office, 100% office. So there's multiple examples of that's how the building gets programmed. Or they have a little dock door for an HVAC or an electrical or plumbing contractor. They drive their trucks in, close the door, and they have their stuff in there. But they demise the building where they have their office and their sort of front of house. There's a wall, and then in the back they have the rest of it. But it's clean, it's small business friendly, and by definition, it is flexible. That's the whole reason it's called Flex R&D.
Thanks, that's helpful. I think the only thing that I'd want to be mindful of is we already have a significant amount of traffic in the city of Bowie, so when it comes to adding more types of business occupants that do have large-scale trucks, and there are multiple of that, that's something I just want to be mindful of.
Yep. Okay.
Thanks. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, appreciate it.
We will now open for the public hearing. Is there any comment?
No, Mayor, there's no one signed up for this evening.
I will now declare the public hearing closed. At this point, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Melford revision to the detailed site plan number 07031-05.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please respond with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same favor. Hearing none. Oh. Please, did you get the nay vote? Any abstentions? Hearing none. Motion carries. We will now move on to the annual update from the Green Team Excellent Executive Committee.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, I'm going to just kind of briefly update you on what our committee's been doing. We're going to have some more exciting opportunities for announcements later, but tonight let's just go back over the last couple of years. I'm Michelle Boff, Chairman of the Green Team. Our executive committee right now has 5 different subcommittees, a range of different activities that we do here in the city. One of the biggest focuses of the Green Team is to be Sustainable Maryland certified. SMC is what mandates green teams throughout the state of Maryland. We are lucky enough to have been certified since 2013, and we are currently working on our recertification for 2022. The Sustainable Maryland essentially gives us a template of objectives, goals, and action items that we have to carry out in the city, and then essentially prove what we've done in the last 3 years in order to recertify. This is what guides our 3-year action plan, our budget request. You'll really see a theme if you look at all the Green Team's proposals and as well as budget requests with how Sustainable Maryland really drives that action plan for us. Currently, the way that we certify, we list a few of the activities that we do. These are just a handful. This isn't all that we are certified for, but you'll see which subgroup is involved, the cost of that, typically provided by you, thank you. Any partners that we have in in our community, and then what fiscal year. So currently for this year, we always continue to promote the Green Expo. Hopefully we will be able to return the Bowie Green Expo next year. There's a cost of $500. We get support from the Bowie Lions, and we would like to plan on doing that for the next 3 years. A few other things that we do, we are hosting a citizen mobility networking events, just $100, but it's something that we do, and it really proves that we're out there really trying to work within the community. We don't have to go through all of this line by line, but certainly all the information is available through our website. We do a lot of events, outreach and advocacy. So whether it's, participating in a local stream cleanup with Girl Scouts recently, or going out to maintain some of the community gardens that we have at the Senior Center. We also do things such as the Bowie Fest, where we have a table where we really just try to educate citizens. Most recently, we did an event at the Mansion where we provided planters for children. And so a nice, neat little activity for them to get involved, learn about pollinators, and also a hands-on activity for the children. So we're always trying to look out for different ways that we can advocate in the city. And here are some of the nice pictures of us working. Overall, our accomplishments of the last few years, we did formulate the sustainability plan. Again, that really guides us, our 3-year action plans each year. We also developed the climate action plan, which you guys have recently passed. Thank you for approving that. And also now we are working on the CAP implementation plan. And really, how is it that we are going to meet those objectives that we set out for our city's climate action plan? We have created 3 Monarch way stations located across the city. There's one just out here with some nice education materials too. Again, it's a way for us to educate, something exciting for not just kids, really for anyone to come out, take a walk, learn a little bit about monarchs. And certainly we're advocating for EVs in all of our green charging stations. We have one here downstairs. We have them at the Ken Hill Center, and we're constantly trying to advocate for more electric vehicles in the city. During COVID, it was rough, not gonna lie. We really were limited with some of our activities, but we tried to do as best as we could. So we still scheduled and hosted some workshops at the Kennel Center and the Senior Center. We took some of our things and went online and virtual, so with our coffee and climate programs, but we also did some on-site cleanups at the Monarch Way Station. A lot of the work that we did were COVID friendly because we could be outdoors, we could be some social distancing, certainly with our Weed Warrior work days that continued, and most recently we were able to bring about the plant sale that we hosted at the Bel Air Mansion. We were participants in the Bowie Day Parade. We won second best spirited. We were pretty excited. And we were also present at the Bowie Fest. We had a few tables and got a lot of community participation. And we really did have a great turnout at the Bowie Fest this year. And we were excited to all have the Bowie Fest back. For fiscal year 23 and beyond, we're really shifting our focus. Not that we're going to take away from some of our more planting type of work, but we're going to start moving more with a wellness. So not to steal this from Michelle Obama, but a Let's Move campaign is on board right now with the Green Team. And so we're really focusing on more activities, whether it be movie nights, Zumbas, yogas, walks, just anything that we can do to kind of get the public outside and working out a little bit. We've always maintained advocacy for native species plantings here in the city with the stormwater upgrades and all the parks, grounds, and maintenance. It's always been our focus to try to keep us as green and as native and as monarch friendly as we can be here in the city. We will continue to work on our SMC, the action plan as needed, and certainly for our certifications. And right now, we're really working on residential outreach and education for EV, not just EV vehicles, solar panels, electrification, and anything that we can do to really help our own citizens try to expand their own sustainability within their own households. A few other things, we have some of our flyers that we did most recently, the Arbor Day Festival, Weed Warrior Work Days. You probably all see us around in some capacity, working and trying to work with our citizens and really get that engagement going. That's all. Thank you, guys. Any questions? Thanks. Oh.
Thank you for the, I'm sorry. No. I just wanted to say.
She was running away.
I know. I just wanted to catch you before you got away. I just wanted to say thank you so very much for all the work that you do. You and the committee do a wonderful job. You make the city very proud, and you make us all look very good. So thank you so very much for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Next, we have the water main breaks report, and I'll turn it over to the city staff.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, we got our city engineer and public works director, Mr. Aldews, will talk and give you an explanation of what occurred 2 weeks ago with the water main breaks.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, members of the City Council. Thank you for taking the time to listen to a brief summary of what happened. But before I do that, I just want to say a couple of things. One is to thank the residents that were adjacent to the where the water main breaks happened. I talked to several of them, and they were all very kind and more concerned about the well-being of the city staff than anything else, and that was very nice to see. And the second thing, thanks to the staff that were working on this breaks, because they did do a very good job and they worked very, very hard. The issue at hand is a chain of events that started with a repair that was being done to replace a T-branch at Moylan Drive. And the contractor excavated the site on Friday, even though the work was supposed to be done on Monday. On Saturday at 3 a.m., we got a call that the T-branch had bursted. And we have a very degrees of water pressure ups and downs. And we were very quick to respond, and when we thought we fixed it, because of the nature of the pipes and the bolts were very rusty, it burst again. So we have to refix it on the same day. So we have two events where pressure changed. Apparently, that caused what's called water hammer, and that has to do with the changes in pressure. And water hammers are the consequences of that is basically what happened, that we have some failures in other parts of the city. And some of them were very easy to fix, and some of them were not. And the memorandum has a detail of what happened at each site and how we did repair all of them. The first time on Saturday, we thought we had 5 water main breaks, but 4 water main breaks. But in reality, we only had 3. One is the Moylan Drive, and the other one was Canfield Lane. The third one was Mambell Lane. And but what we thought the 4th one was the Morningside Lane, it was just a leak at the meter that just happened to, it's not a consequence of the Moylan Drive event. It was just happened, and that was the easiest thing to fix. We thought we had everything under control, and on Monday, I got a call and that said we had 2 more failures. And one was in Ethan, and the other one was in Marn Lane. And basically, as I said, I learned a lot. That's one of the, I guess, one of the good things that happened to me is that I was able to share the workload with my staff and be there and just see the amount of effort that takes to do those repairs, and also have lessons learned. And one of the things that I plan to do once all these emergencies are over, to have the utility staff that participated on those repairs to sit down and have a brainstorm, or how did we do, and what are the good things that we did, and what are the things that we can do to improve and be more efficient. So I will wait for questions if you have any, or any explanation.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to add one thing to what Jose said. You know, I'm a reformed public works director from 15 years back, so even though I'm not an engineer, I had to learn the hard way. One of the things that caused us some significant problems on Moreland, and made them, and maybe one other place too, is that instead of the brakes being, the brakes were lateral. They were 7 feet long in the pipe, as opposed to going across the pipe, which is much easier to repair. So our people had to, once we identified the brake, you know, repair a brake that was as much as 7 feet in length in the pipe, which made it an extremely difficult situation. But just want to pass that on, since he was a little modest with that one.
Thank you, City Manager.
I'd like to just take a quick moment and say thank you for the quick response, for getting staff and what Public Works did, and getting those repaired and working with the teams, and we appreciate that. And I think I speak on behalf of the residents when you minimized the impact to them. And we know that our pipes are old and we're going to have issues, but thank you for your quick response. And again, city staff, again, you did a great job. Any other comments? Anyone, please? Councilman?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. First of all, again, I want to say thank you for your efforts. I know that it was no small effort on the part of you and your team. I know when I came out and saw you, you were a little tired. All about water. You're sitting on the curb across the street from a water leak, water flowing out. Not a normal, expected part of one's day. And being a weekend, I know it was not easy for a lot of the crew that came out, and they spent a long time on that. So thank you very much. Please do extend my gratitude, or our gratitude, for all their time and effort on that. So very much appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
The other, a couple comments and questions. At the end of the day, do we know how many properties were completely out of water for how long? And then I know the majority of people just had a reduced water pressure. Is that right?
That's correct, sir. I don't know the number of residents because I didn't walk with the staff, but 20 minutes before we close the valves to completely shut the water down, staff walks and gives all the residents that are in their house notice that in about 20 minutes we're going to shut the water, and then when the repairs were completed, then we'll just let them know also that water was back. So it was not, even in Moreland, the residents in the vicinity, they did have water at low pressure.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, thank you. You mentioned the valves, and my understanding is that some of the valves didn't work too well in terms of they weren't able to fully shut off water and made things a bit more difficult. Is there any way in identifying where we have problems with valves that might need some remedial work on them?
Well, interesting. I did talk to, as I mentioned, we're going to have the lessons learned, but in preparation to what I'm thinking about doing, I talked to the acting superintendent, and he mentioned that in the past, the city used to have a program where they will check the valves, but because that program usually resulted on the release of particles of iron, then there were complaints, and then that program was suspended. And I'm going to learn more about it and come back here perhaps with a plan and put it in front of the city manager and the assistant city manager first, and see if what I propose is a good idea or not such a good idea. But I'm thinking about a solution, or at least I have some thoughts about how to monitor what you're asking, sir.
Excellent. Is it possible that we could do that testing in tandem with the flushing that we do?
That's one of the plans that I have. But it's interesting. I just learned about that today, and so still the ideas are flowing. But we'll consider all possibilities, and as I said, I'll bring different options to the city manager, assistant city manager, and we'll decide what position we should bring to your attention.
Excellent. Is there any, to your knowledge, is there any testing protocols or any testing devices that can be used to ascertain the condition of those pipes and what might be susceptible to breaking?
I'm afraid I don't have something that I know, but I can do some research about it.
And I think that based on what from our conversations over the weekend and on site there, the water hammer issue, is there any way to manage that in terms of some system to maintain pressure, to keep it from, I mean, I know it's an extreme situation where you got dramatic flows, it's not a minor thing, but I understand we had a couple pumps that we had to switch between. Is there perhaps an automated way to do that so that we mitigate the risk of significant pressure changes?
That's outside of my area of expertise. I'm doing some research and reading about different valves. So, but my assistant is attending the meeting, so I will defer that question to her because that is her area of expertise.
Excellent, thank you. And one last question. We had some contractors that initially started the work. They were there just for the purpose of doing that original piece of work. Do we have contractors that came in on that day as well, correct? For repairs, or was that all staff? All staff?
No, it's all staff, sir.
Okay, all right. Is there concern about needing contract on call for support? Or do we think we have enough resources to handle this ourselves? For this particular case, we had enough resources, and that's one of the questions that the city manager brought to my attention first, and that I passed that idea because he said, well, we need to fix this, we need to fix now, so I want you to find out if we need help from either WSSC or contractors. But when I talked to my staff, they said, we got it, we got this. So it was a lot of work, but we did it very well. Yeah, I chatted with a number of them, and they definitely explained it was a lot of work, and I don't.
Yep.
It was.
Yes, sir.
Not a light task. So thank you very much again to them and to you. I guess this is all symptomatic of an aging water infrastructure. So we've seen it in the tuberculation, and now of course this. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Any additional questions? Councilman said.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As is often the case, Councilmember Wolfley asked all the questions that I had and then some. So the only thing that I will say is thank you so much to the whole team for getting on this quickly. My only bit of constructive feedback has more to do with communication. Initially, we did a great job of getting the word out to a number of the residents in the M section that there was going to be work done to expect potential change in water pressure. But I did receive a lot of comments from Whitehall, Rockledge, Victoria Heights, and other parts of the area that there wasn't a lot of notification about what was going on. So just from a comms perspective, just making sure that if we do have a water main break, that we try to the best of our ability to reach out to all potentially impacted customers just to say, hey, you might experience a change in service. This is what's going on. We're fixing it. Just to put people just put their nerves to rest, because I did get a lot of feedback on that. That's more of a communication issue. As far as the repairs, you guys worked really quickly after hours, and I really appreciated that. And residents overall were very appreciative of the fact that the situation was resolved quickly. So thank you.
That's on me, sir. I think that I'm going to do better, and this is the first time I had to deal with an emergency like this, but I'm already thinking about plans. Like I have a list of emails that I'm going to just write a note instead of calling everybody and forgetting to call a person. I'm just going to institute a system where everybody will get notified, and then because our communications department did their job, so the getting that to the communications was on me. Sorry about that.
Well, I couldn't ask for any more, and I really appreciate that. Thank you.
If I could real quickly just ask one more question, and that I know you said you're going to be doing a debrief with your team about what you could have done better, what things went on and all. Could you provide us a copy of that, if you don't mind, just the bullet points?
Yes, sir.
What that is. I think we'd like to see that. And last but not least, I know one of the things you mentioned is about it happening. A crew went out and did work on a Friday when it should have been started on a Monday. Is that something that we're looking at making sure we don't do again?
Yes, sir. That's exactly what we're looking for. I actually going to put documentation forth that the day of the excavation has to take place the day of the repair.
Okay. Well, I do want to say again, on behalf of myself, the city, the council, thank you for your quick response, and you and your team and the work you do.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Any other questions?
All right.
I will now entertain.
If we could, I'd like for Mr. Cornwell, our emergency manager, to give you a quick update.
Oh, Lee, you got an update for us, please. Go right ahead.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, go right ahead.
Of course, everyone knows about this time that a tornado did touch down, started in the S section, went to the B section of the Levitt's homes. I think we dodged a bullet here. Absolutely no injuries reported as of yet. We have 2 houses that have been damaged, structurally damaged by a tree that has fallen. We had some significant tree falling. We had road closures. As of probably in another 15 minutes, all roads will be open and passable. All trees have been cut and pushed to the side, and crews will be coming back tomorrow morning to start the cleanup. The county has offered resources for tree cutting crews, and we're going to reassess that need tomorrow, and if needed, we'll give them a call and they can give us a hand with the cleanup. It's probably going to take a few days for cleanup, but slow and sure after everything is pushed to the side and all roads are open. BG&E is out in force, trying to get the power restored. There's approximately 300 houses that are without power right now. They believe that they can get that power restored sometime tonight. So that's all I have for you. And like I say, luckily we dodged a bullet.
If you don't mind, first and foremost, thank you. Went out there, saw the team out there, the emergency management. You guys are doing, and ladies are doing a great job. They were out there on the spot. The one thing I would ask is, with the power out and the heat, and city manager, you may be in on this. Do we have somewhere that if we have some elderly or some others that because of the lack of power, they need to move somewhere and we might be able to move them?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I think if that becomes a problem, certainly we have the gym that we could use the same way we did with the explosion. And if that occurs, then we could stop the music and direct our rangers and other people to help out if that.
If I may ask, what would you recommend if that happens? Who they call? What number?
Well, I think they should call the non-emergency police number, and who would relay them to Lee, and if we knew that was a problem, and then we start making adjustments. We could, if it was a large number of people, of course we could use the gym, We could always use our senior center if it's a smaller number of people to,
Hey, thank you, City Manager. Again, Lee, thank you so very much.
You're quite welcome. Thank you.
Okay. More comments?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? Councilman Esteve, did you have some discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please respond with an aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say favor. Hearing none. Motion carried. Hey, thank you, everyone. And again, thank you to all the citizens, and thank you to staff, and thank you, everyone.